I think we're live. Sorry about that little delay, everybody. Had to get my coffee. Think I was gonna watch a video about Zelda without coffee? Hello, Aesir. Hi there. One time when I was going to my car after work, Aesir tripped me. He just tripped me. I did candles because I'm teaching you to stand up for yourself. It's very important. Everybody needs to learn this. You know the deal, everybody. Just tell me if the audio mixing is bad, and I'll fix it. If we have bad mixing, tell me, and I'll do the fixing, as the kids say. So I thought this would be fun because I plunder the GDC vaults every now and then, and I thought, hey, I haven't streamed since that PlayStation State of Play thingy, so why don't we do this together? See this. They're not getting any audio? Oh my god. Okay, so See, I don't know, Candles. I don't know if I trust you. Okay, so I can hear myself. Candles. What the hell? You keep doing this to me, man. Straight up, dog. Bluetooth and other devices. I think I should actually connect my headphones, though. God damn it, I'm banging all across my desk now. It's just so that I can hear what's going on. You shouldn't trust me. Candles, you rat with a rat thumbnail. Alright, it's all connecting. Calm down. I better turn on my headset first. When this is just a VOD and people are watching this in the future, I sincerely hope they have the good sense to skip until something starts playing here. Audio. Yeah. It's all good now. Alright, so let's start. It's a possum. It's not a possum, it's a rat, I can tell. Hey, gob down. Konnichiwa.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Dino Matrix. Let me take a look at the audio. Yeah, I should be dominating the conversation.
Thank you for attending our panel today. Our talk will be presented by the three of us.
I hope it's still legible though. Hold on, I'll actually just listen to it. Yeah. Okay, you can get both audios. It sounds good. It sounds fine. Do you even have a cool marsupial in Iceland? I don't think we do. Hey, Dinometrics, yeah? Yeah, okay, so this is a chat. This came out in like 2017, I think? Yeah, 2017 GDC session. It's a really interesting conversation where they're just going over basically the making of Breath of the Wild.
Regardless of how ludicrous it is and how agitated they may look.
Cat! You chose this moment to wake up and start banging the furniture. I'm not gonna take the joy away from them. I am actually. Cat, you cannot be doing this right now. I am with my people. You're making me look like a rogue amateur.
The holder of the Triforce of Wisdom. Along with the rest of the programmers, he wields the wisdom to realize all of the aforementioned ludicrous ideas.
Oh, wisdom. Triforce of the power to show. This is such a like contrived, weird, like you're wasting good GDC time doing this, man. 2017 was 5 years ago. We're getting old, man! We all grew so old! Do you remember when we were kids? Now we're all so old!
World of Zelda. We hope you enjoy the panel.
Yeah, okay, so now it's gonna go. Now it's gonna start. I'm also really sad because there's no closed captioning.
Hello, everybody.
Oh my god, he speaks
I am
English.
Hidemaro Fujibayashi, the director of Breath of the Wild. Thanks for attending.
Alright. He has he's got good Shigeru Miyamoto hair. Although Miyamoto now has good Hollywood hair, they changed it.
過去ご覧のゼルダタイトルのディレクターとゲームデザイナーを務めてまいりました。思えば約20年ほどゼルダを作り続けてい
I
ます。
assume these are some other games he made?
自分でもびっくりしています。
This is actually something that...
Past titles that I've worked on
Alright,
as a
let him talk.
director and as a game designer. Looking back, I've been working on Zelda titles for 20 years.
Jesus.
I'm actually surprised myself.
さて、では早速
He
始
doesn't
め
need
たいと思います。
captioning. Yeah, he has like a
まずは
narrator
こ
for
ちら
him.
をご覧ください。
It is really interesting
Let's
how...
get started. First,
Cat, you're literally banging it like you're banging the plastic crap against the floor. You can play with the fish on the end of the stick, but not the stick.
what does this look like?
一見すると初代ゼルダ、任天堂エンターテインメントシステム NES のゼルダに見えますが、よく見てください。
Okay,
At first glance, it might look like the original Zelda on the NES, but take a closer look.
リンクが青かった。
okay, so straight up, they're going to explain this in better depth than I can. To those who don't know, they made a Zelda game in this style as like the prototype, like a blueprint for Breath of the Wild, and just to test out ideas and how they all merge together and such. And I want to play this game. Why can't they release this? This is the one I want to try. Even if it's just like a really spiffy and fun tech
You'll
demo.
notice that Link is blue, there's a leaf, and also what looks to be a brown pipe.
A brown
実は
pipe.
この1枚の映像が今日お
I
話し
saw this in the last Matthew Matos's video. Yeah.
とても重要なものなんです。
I didn't.
その理由の説明はちょっと
I haven't seen that one,
させてください。
As it turns out, this image here plays a crucial role.
But yeah,
in the
anybody who
gameplay of constant
makes videos
games.
plunders regularly
Let
from
me
the
come back to
GDC
this a
vaults.
little later.
Oh. And this is something that's so weird to me that this is always the most interesting stuff in like movies when you get like movie commentaries and they're talking about how they made it and you get behind the scenes. Why don't more companies go and like, hey, let's make these fun showcases of how we actually assembled our games, because assembling games is super fun.
Zelda, Breath of the Wild, which is scheduled to release in just 2 days on March 3rd, along with the Nintendo Switch.
What do you think?
Oh. Release Hidemaru cut.
Thanks. Great. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
知っていてもらって安心しました。
I'm relieved to know that you are aware of this title.
Good one.
このゼルダの伝説最新作ブレスオブザワイルドは皆さんにはどう見えていますか？
So, how did this new Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, look to you?
新機軸で一変して見えるでしょうか？
Yeah. And
Does it look like
anyways,
it's made a
since he
breakthrough
just
and completely changed,
since he's not going over the important, interesting stuff right away.
or does it look like not much has changed at all?
今作を最初に企画するにあたってまず新しいゼルダで何をしたいのかと考えました。
Developer commentary, Valve style.
それを実現するのに必要な方法は
I liked that in that Half-Life, like the coast or whatever they called that level. But I feel like commentary format works much better in a linear sort of video style than it does having you play the game and then stop to listen to them talk. Would be nice if more companies release how they go about crafting the world and maybe the thought process behind making characters. Yeah.
Concepts that you may have heard before, rediscovering the essence and breaking conventions.
Okay, this is my opinion on Breath of the Wild is that I think it is a masterfully crafted world, and like it's a masterful game that has absolutely nothing interesting to say. And this is why I really hope Tears of the Kingdom turns out really, really good, because it would be a real waste for Breath of the Wild's gameplay or like that style of game that Breath of the Wild is, to not get another shot at being in a better game. Tomorrow, the urban exploration video will be released for the public, and there's a section in that video where I go on a bit of a rant about like, every area in Breath of the Wild is the least interesting area. What's up with that? So, nobody's allowed to come after me, because I've explained here I do like Breath of the Wild. But this, I think, is the most interesting part of the making of Breath of the Wild. This here. It's having to stop all the time, isn't that fun? Yeah. That's why I like developer commentaries that are more like this. Works better in Portal games compared to Half-Life. Yeah, because Portal is not as hectic.
What I wanted to accomplish with this new Zelda was to create a game where the user can truly experience freedom in an expansive playfield.
And he achieved that, right? They really achieved that. You have like everybody's made the same video talking about this exact thing. But like, you can walk to the end boss right away. All right? The story is told in the order in which you encounter it. It is the pure distillation of the idea of an open, free world, ready for you to explore it. They definitely achieved that. I just feel like when you look at something like Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time, like Ocarina of Time has you constantly going back between two states in time, and it's like the whole game is kind of about nostalgia. So you're like, you've actually gamified that feeling really well by showcasing like the changes in the relationship Link has with the people in the world and such. And thematically, the way you play the game comes together really tightly. Majora's Mask, like, just obviously there's a reason every indie game seems to want to mimic that time loop dealy, because it's such a good mechanic for creating dread. And for, like, Ocarina of Time is kind of about, you're not exploring the world, you're exploring, like, the world throughout time. So you're exploring two different versions of the world, and you're getting to see how it changes, to hammer home that sort of, that theme of nostalgia and growing and stuff. But in Majora's Mask, you're more so exploring the characters in the world. You're looking at their schedules and such, and it really gamified that feeling of, like, melancholy and despair. Breath of the Wild definitely does gamify freedom, but I think freedom is such a nebulous theme that it doesn't quite have any emotional resonance, if that makes sense.
And through exploring this field, I wanted the user to be able to experience a new sense of adventure again and again.
To be fair, they achieved that in 1986. Yeah, sure. Like, and I think they go over it in this video even, that this is always like what Zelda 1 was. And you see a lot of those complaints where people are like, Breath of the Wild, it ruined the Zelda formula. No. Like, Breath of the Wild is truer to the Zelda formula as established by Zelda 1 than any other Zelda game. Maybe. I haven't played all the Zelda games, so I can't make that, like, broad a statement. But it's definitely truer than A Link to the Past or any of the sort of games in that strand of A Link to the Past, like Ocarina, Majora, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, and such. And it's always like, it's obviously more impressive to see it in Breath of the Wild than it is in the original Zelda, because you can just look at those games side by side and just even purely on like the technical presentation for front, you can, like, Breath of the Wild easily outpaces the original.
In other words, this means a game where the user can think and decide on their own where they want to go and what they want to do.
All right.
そう考えたときに頭に浮かんだのは初代のゼルダ NES のゼルダでした。これがまさにそうではなかった。
Oof, it's so hard looking at a map like this.
When I started to think this way, what came to mind was the original NES Zelda. Doesn't this just sound like the original Zelda?
Zelda 強敵と対決しながら
Oof,
フィールドをスクロ
this
ール
game
さ
looks
せる
so rough.
その度に新しい発見があり攻略をあれこれと考えるものでした
Battling daunting enemies and scrolling across the field, and every time the screen scrolled, there was a new discovery to be made and a new solution to uncover.
ユーザーがどこに行って何をするのかを自分で考えて選び
Yeah,
そ
yeah,
して
yeah. I also think that
これを作ろうとすることは
the conceptualization of gamifying freedom is very different from the original Zelda to Breath of the Wild, in that for the original Zelda versus Breath of the Wild, yeah. So for the original Zelda, they're very much designing around the NES. And like the expectation isn't that, oh yeah, you just do X% of the game, then you save and come back tomorrow. No. The expectation is, because they're still sort of transitioning from the arcades, is you play the game, and then when you put it down, you have to restart the game. So it just sort of has to be more open to allow players to get deeper and deeper into the game faster the more they sort of become familiar with the world. Whereas Breath of the Wild, obviously, you have SD cards now in the Nintendo Switch, which are 1 billion times greater than anything they had access to in 86.
原点に戻ることかもしれないと思ったのです
A game where the user can think and decide on their own where they want to go and what they want to do and experience excitement and adventure. I thought to myself, maybe what I need to do to create such a game is to go back to the essence.
Yeah, go back to the essence.
ドキドキワクワクの体験
Doki
この
doki.
点ではゼルダの舞台であるハイラルの大地は
This is something that I don't agree with this guy on, and I don't agree with Nintendo's Zelda departments on either, is this insistence on going back to Hyrule every time. Because that's really not how Zelda began. And it's like, I think like you see something with like Link's Awakening or I think Link 2 even doesn't take place in Hyrule, and Majora's Mask. It's like these games are more interesting when you're not just rehashing Zelda, Ganon, and Link over and over again. I think the decision to have it be like, no, it's a time loop, and you have like Calamity and the Triforce of Courage, and it's like it keeps happening over the generations, and people are reborn, and it's like, this is such crap, and they should have never canonized that ridiculous timeline theory. You can just have Link go to a different country, be like, hey, you know, I'm Link, I'm a little adventurous boy, and gee, you know, I'm gonna go to a mountainous country. And then you can create an exploration game that's really like mountain focused. And you have like climbing, you have like hook shots and stuff. And you can really like dive into that. And you don't, because you can sort of free yourself from the baggage of it has to have Zelda or it has to have Ganon. That to me is like so liberating, and it's so annoying to me that they keep just redoing this. Especially when like Link, Zelda, Ganon, this is not spectacular writing that needs to be retold all over again. These characters are barely characters.
この地図いかがでしょうか
Thrilling and pulse-sounding
Jesus
experience.
Christ, the cat is just running around the apartment!
Place is filled with a great spirit of adventure. Take a look at this map.
Of Avenger.
実はこれ数年前
I do like that map though.
そのロマンを具体的にしてみようと言って
It's crazy that people still care about the Zelda timeline. Yeah, I think so
知
too.
っている方おられるのではないでしょうか
This may look familiar to some of you, but this is an illustration.
This is also like, I very much fall in the camp of, because people are always like, when do we get a playable Zelda? Why on earth would you want Zelda to be playable? Like, why would you want that? Like, just, the only justification I can see for adding more playable characters to Zelda is if you remove the warping, like the fast travel from Breath of the Wild, and you can maybe play as 3 or 4 different characters, right? Because Breath of the Wild is so independent from like your armory, and you're always like making do with the environments as a weapon instead. And then rather than warping between towers and shit like that, you would warp and play a different character. And you could meet the other characters if you go into the world, like in the general area where they were. Kind of like how Grand Theft Auto 5 works, except like the justification for you playing as a different character is that you do that so that you don't have to justify fast travel in the universe, right? But if you're not gonna do that, and you just want like, oh, you want Zelda to be playable, it just like, it boggles the mind, because Zelda is such a boring character. She has so little interesting stuff going on, and like, I know they could write something better. I know they could write something interesting for her to do, but you know, it feels like a thing people are asking for because they haven't gotten it. And I feel like the moment they get it, they're gonna realize that, oh no, it's actually not a good idea to fragment the experience like that, without giving a lot of thought to the ramifications this has on gameplay, right? So like, in something like or maybe if you really want to do it, and you want to do it in maybe a bit more of a scripted linear game than Breath of the Wild is, imagine if Link is able to do all the exploration and the climbing and all of that stuff, but Zelda has to like sneak around. So you have two very distinct modes of navigating the same basic terrain. Maybe that could do it, and then you can sort of make the theme be how different people have to navigate the same space or something. I think one of the Assassin's Creed PlayStation Vita games did that, where like you were playing as an escaped slave during the Haitian Revolution or something, and because she was black, you had to like. You were like, there was a lot more attention to you when you were walking out in public, stuff like that. But I don't know. I feel like there's just, I think people just want something new from Zelda, and they think that they want Princess Zelda to be playable. I think that's what they want, but I don't know.
A few years ago, in an attempt to actually put down
to play as a girl, but you're already playing as basically a girl. Have you seen Link? Likely for equality. They don't want Zelda to be a princess anymore, but more of an active role. Yeah, like, I guess, but, like, again, I don't know. I don't think that really matters that much to me on a gameplay front. And if you're going to introduce it, people need to seriously consider the consequences of fragmenting the experience like that. I don't think equality is justification enough. Especially not if it has disastrous gameplay ramifications. But, like, I would trust this studio to be able to handle that. I don't know. But maybe, like... See, this is actually something... What if instead of doing, like, 2 playable characters, you have, like, 10 playable characters? And like I said earlier, you have that fast travel mechanic where you're just fast traveling into different people. I don't know. It's awful to recycle it so much. I think it would be cool if they stuck with the time ideas in terms of leaving messages for his ancestors in different areas throughout time periods. Playable Zelda would be kind of interesting if they Metal Gear her. Yeah? What? What? Wait a minute, you can't just drop that comment. What does that mean? They did branch Link into other lands. That sounds like an approach the Aesir series took with Adol. They stuck to a chronology and had him go through the world for variety. Alright. I mean, the characters are archetypes, but Ocarina of Time already did the hero's journey perfectly, so there's no need to bring that back, I think. My issue would be it would continue to reduce Link, as he's a silent protagonist while she talks. Yeah, I think that's also fair. Definitely, like, if you're going to bring Zelda as a playable character, and she has a voice, you're, like, at that point, you kind of need to give Link a voice actor too. Or you need to do what they did in Jak and Daxter, the Precursor's Legacy, where you, like, actually, in-universe, this is a mute character. He can't talk. He doesn't have the ability to talk. Which is, like, maybe that's the interesting thing. Maybe, like, yeah, Link is better at exploration, but Zelda is better at interacting with the NPCs, because Zelda can talk. Right? And then you have, like, Zelda really thrives in person-to-person interactions, whereas Link really thrives in, like, climbing a mountain and watching a volcano, like he's doing right here. I don't know. I feel like this is like, obviously, any idea can be made to be good, but I don't think playable Zelda is a good idea on its own. I think there's a lot of ramifications for fragmenting the experience like that, which people need to seriously think about. Metal Gear Zelda, she has Danooks. I mean, these are kind of like Metal Gears, these golden
The land of Hyrule has
Colossus
all the
thingies.
necessary ingredients for a great adventure.
There was a neat fan art of Zelda as a main character in a cyberpunk future world where the police are after her and she has to release Link from cryosleep. Oh yeah. Actually, I imagine that could be cool, but I really like, I really hope Zelda doesn't do that. I like that they're always like just, this is sort of low fantasy.
The user can think and decide on their own.
They're not
where
about
they want
like,
to go,
well,
what
like
want
they
to
have
do.
these magical machines
quite a few
and
hurdles to
an
overcome.
iPad in the newest game, but like, you know what I mean.
決まった手順を踏んでいないとイベントを進められなかったり
Not being able to move forward with an event without having followed a set path.
作り手の都合で乗り越えられない壁があったり
Having walls that you can't get around due to level design.
はたまた攻略のために決められた体験をしていないとヒントや
Oh, also in the urban exploration video that releases tomorrow,
Or it could be that unless you've gone through a predetermined
while I
set of experiences,
recognize the masterful touches and the pure adherence to freedom in Breath of the Wild,
clues
I
for
think
difficulty may
Fallout
not be
4's
appropriate.
world
This won't do.
is 100 times more interesting
あと
because it isn't as free. It's a lot better scripted, I think. But that's an argument for that video's
And
comment
let's
section.
not forget the fact that all the solutions to all the puzzles that you've painstakingly prepared for a dungeon are all made available on the internet.
Yeah.
これらはすべてゼルダの当たり前でした
These were all conventions of Zelda.
まずこれを見直
And this is
す
actually something that really bothers me about Breath of the Wild. Is like, as much as they did break the conventions, they also kind of didn't. And when they didn't, the game suffered for it. So like those puzzle temple dungeon thingies, it's like, this has no place being in the game. Why is this here? Oh, so I can get weird upgrade materials? Like, what is this? This is
So our
ridiculous.
first step in designing the game was to re-examine these conventions and put our sights on changing the structure of the game from a passive one where you
Will you
play
talk
within
about
the
how
confines
Vivek
of
is the
a
greatest video game city?
to
Them,
where
Rurum.
the user
You're
can
banned.
physically engage
You're straight up
with the game.
banned for that. This is, I will not have Vivek glorification in my chat.
So what is an active game?
まずアプローチとしてゼルダの当たり前と化
This is actually an interesting part of the video, so I'm not gonna yammer too much over it. The
Our
difference
first
between an
approach
active
was
and
to
a passive
remove
game.
those impassable walls, which were a convention of Zelda, by transforming the walls and allowing the user to climb them in our experimental game field.
今までどうしても道の囲いを示すことに使われていた壁をルートとして選択肢の一つとして加えたとき
So you feel Breath of the Wild needed more focus, not just aimless exploration in itself? I think you can contextualize the exploration better. I think you can make the exploration congeal much better to a theme. Like, Zamram just brought up Vivek. So, like, if you compare Breath of the Wild to Morrowind, both games are sensibly, like, in both of them, you're basically just traveling around the world, sponging off all of the abilities you can find, and you're just finding all this interesting loot and doing all of these interesting things. But in Breath of the Wild, you're doing it to kill time, whereas in Morrowind, you're doing it, and the justification in the universe is that you're fulfilling this ancient prophecy, and you're kind of becoming one with the land. And that really plays into much bigger ideas about, like, mythology and the nature of divinity in that game. And, like, the slippery nature of what people consider established truths and such, which you get with, like, what really happened to the original Nerevar. And I think if Breath of the Wild had that going for itself, where instead of Link just, like, because, like, again, it is as much like he's talking now about how they turned it from a passive game into an active game. I think the narrative is extremely passive. I think basically there is nothing interesting going on in the story, because there's no, like, there's justifications for Link going on this adventure, but you don't really feel it. You know, you feel me?
どこを進むと
The red year made Vivek a better place.
By transforming walls,
Ooh,
which
I don't know
are
what that
used to
is.
represent boundaries, into
Jacob, is
another
that like a
optional
mod?
path, it's as if the entire landscape that lays before the user opens up.
When you said to take Fallout 4 as an exploration game instead of an action game, it made me want to play Fallout 4 again since I didn't really enjoy where they took the series. Yeah. I don't think people should be like with Starfield. If anybody goes into Starfield expecting hardcore role playing, my God, like get out now, because Bethesda doesn't do role playing games anymore. They make exploration game with some role playing in them, and their exploration games are always the better parts.
私はこの時これこそが今回目指すゲームデザインであり能動的なゲームの可能性であると感じたのです。
And it was at this point that I realized this was the kind of game design I was striving for and holds the potential to create.
Man, they all just cribbed from Fumito Ueda, didn't they, huh?
そして実験フィールドの高い山から眼下を見下ろした時次にやることは一つでした。
And so, naturally, after you make the climb to the top of a tall mountain and look down, there's only really one thing you can do.
そう今度は飛び降りるんです。
You jump.
アイテムで空を滑空するアクションを取り入れたことによって登った後は好きな場所に
Yeah, but why do you jump? You jump because there's nothing else to do.
今から作るゼルダに自由な発展をもたらすと感じました。
By introducing an action whereby you can glide through the air with an item. Once you climb, you can fly to wherever you want. I felt that this was the crucial ingredient that will expand the sense of freedom in the new Zelda.
プレイヤーのアクション×フィールドという掛け算で移動一つとっても無限の遊びが生まれる手応えを
Breath of the Wild, Elden Ring, these are all just Shadow of the Colossus clones. Nobody wants to say it, but I'll say it.
After witnessing a simple multiplication of players' action,
Team Eagle superiority proved?
create
Hell yeah.
an infinite possibility of gameplay through one movement, I came to the conclusion that this concept of multiplicative gameplay is the answer I was looking for.
ゼルダの謎解きは、誰もが多くの予備知識を必要
What's
としない
that, cat?
自然現象や簡単な理科の知識
Chat, can you hear
を
her?
モチーフにしたものが数多く登場します。
Say meow again.
しかし今まではこれを一つ
I don't
一
think
つ
they
の
can
パズ
hear
ルを
you.
解く
I think you're too
ヒントとして
soft. I think you're too soft spoken. Come on.
Many puzzles found in Zelda games are based on things
Ow,
like
you're
natural
clawing me,
phenomena or
bitch.
simple science facts
Can-
that
chat,
don't
can you hear her?
require a lot of prior knowledge. But with the
Say
way
something,
we had
say
built
something,
the game
say
thus
something to
far,
the chatters.
we're using each of these individually
Meow.
as clues or hints to
You're making me
solve
look like a total idiot, by the way.
一つのパズルを構成する
Just
オブジェクトは
FYI,
こ
cat.
のパズルのためだけに作られていると言っても過言ではない作りで、これはとても洗練された
If you heard some
実現できます。
patting there, that's her. She was
かなりの
walking past the
リソースを
microphone.
必要とするため言うなれば歌詞
Nya.
であるこの手法は残念なく
Would you say the game's theme, for lack of a better words, is freedom, both for a narrative and as a design philosophy? Yeah, but like I said at the start of our movie commentary night here, I think freedom, it really comes through in the gameplay and like the way the game is structured, but it doesn't hit, right? It's no like there's no moment where the game being about freedom really clicks quite to the extent that like Ocarina of Time being about nostalgia, because the story of Breath of the Wild isn't really about freedom either. It's like, what is this story, right? It's just another rehash of this weird dumb prophecy dealy they've got going on. We can hear her. That's awesome.
It's not a stretch to say that the objects that made up each of these puzzles were made
You heard the cat?
specifically for those puzzles.
He's not
This
actually holding a
approach
cat,
allows us to
chat.
fine-tune and
Hey,
polish the
Aesir just
gameplay
lost his mind.
experience, but unfortunately, it requires a lot of resource, and this method of development by addition was not going to work for the new Zelda.
Yeah,
そこ
sadly.
で次に考えたのはこのパズルの量産も全て掛け算にできないかということでした。
So my next thought was, I wonder if I can use this idea of multiplication and apply it to the mass production of these puzzles.
プレイヤーのアクションとそれに反応するオブジェクト、 さらにそのオブジェクト同士も影響し合うように作って
This is unironically probably the best new mechanic that you can chop down trees and move rocks around and like create bridges and stuff for yourself.
Make the game so that objects react to the player's action, and the objects themselves also influence each other. If we could do this, I felt
I like that
we
he's
might
like
be one
cooking
step
the apple.
closer to creating an active game.
そしてまずこの仮説を具体的にゼルダの遊びに当てはめ、本当にこの掛け算で能動的な遊びが広がっていくのか、それを一番簡単な方法で実験してみようと思いました。
So I had to find out if applying this hypothesis to Zelda and implementing this multiplicative gameplay will actually result in an active game. I decided to experiment with this in the simplest way possible.
Yes. He created the first immersive sim chat.
そして試作したのが冒頭にお見せしたこれです。
And what resulted was what I showed you at the beginning of the panel.
まず掛け算の遊びを手っ取り早く体現し、
I like that they animated the shadows. They were really going for something there.
この後登壇するテクニカルディレクタードータのところにキャラクターデザインを、キャラクターデータを持ち込み作ってもらったんです。
I thought that the quickest way to bring this idea to life and to present this to the rest of the team would be to create this in 2D. So I brought the character data to the technical director, Mr. Doda, who will be coming up after this, and asked him to make it.
これはご覧の通り 2D タイプの
Morrowind is the best chosen one type story after all these years. Probably. Wasn't the world in danger because Zelda wanted to be free from fate?
だから
I don't know.
来ているんですね。
Maybe.
懐かしいです。
As you can see, this is a 2D Zelda, but we use this as a way to experiment with the mechanism I was talking about earlier. So you could say this is a legitimate
Like,
prototype. of Breath of
it
the
might have
Wild,
been.
hence
And like,
it
yeah,
was
maybe you
very
can like
nostalgic.
puzzle together how Zelda freeing herself from fate also freed Link from conventional gameplay, but it's like
So let's take a look at this footage where we
it doesn't have any emotional heft because I don't care about this fate crap, you know? It's kind of off to me that Ganon knows about you ruining his plan and does nothing about it and waits. Maybe having a timer where certain things happen to the world can severely affect how you go about deciding where to go. Yeah, but like, see, that would be a good idea to like, there's a great game called, I believe it's Camelot or Excalibur by Chris Crawford on the Atari 2600 or 5200, Atari 5200. And that game has a constant timer running down until Mordred will take over the kingdom. And that's the time you have to basically finish the game, right? The problem is that when your game is about freedom and you go through all this trouble to actually make it possible for the player to experience freedom like this, if you put a timer on it, people begin to look at like activities like this one. This should not be a superfluous activity. And that's kind of what happens when your game is about, when you add like a stress to the game. It's actually possible, I'm thinking, if instead of being an open world, if Breath of the Wild were a linear game where you go from A to B, but the actual, like, the size of the map is really big. So, like, there are like 150 million ways to actually navigate each individual little part of it by like, yeah, there's a little lake here and you can chop down a tree and you can just go down the lake. Or maybe you can talk to this character here and you can get some money and then you can use that money to hire a boat to go to this place. And it's like you're going down a linear path, but you have an extraordinarily great amount of different mechanics at your disposal to do it with. Just theory crafting here.
いかがでしたか？
What did you think?
Fallout 1 also did this. Yeah. Fallout 1 also did this. And there was actually a great GDC talk by, I think it's Josh Sawyer or Chris Crawford, channel friend Chris Crawford, where they basically go over when they were writing, I think it's actually Josh Sawyer, when they were writing New Vegas, they went, we just basically took the story from Fallout 1 and we just did that again. Right, we changed like the structure of the narrative and how it impacts gameplay. They just took that and did it again, And or maybe it was actually Fergus Urquhart doing a post-mortem on the game. I think that's the one. And in that, they talk about the timer. And they explain that this was a mistake. Everybody said it was a mistake, but they kept it in the game originally because, like, it congealed so well to the theme of the game. The problem was that it like directed a very wrong way of playing the game. Even though, like, in theory, it's thematically much more appropriate. It just in practice, people were playing the game without really getting lost in the world and such. So why did Nintendo accept the timeline theory as canon? Did they have no plan of their own where to take the games? That just seems like they are making it up as they go along. Yeah, I don't know, because this crap started as, like, fandom theory stuff.
Involving a river and some trees. But the users
So Dark Souls 1?
I
I disagree that the timer was a mistake. I like, you can take it in both directions, but the developers, this is what the developers said, that however thematically appropriate the timer was, it, like, ultimately people were skipping content that they really wanted them to see. And they were really missing out on a lot of the meat to Fallout because they didn't know, like, maybe if you have a timer, I think it's really appropriate also to let the player know how close they are to the goal. So, because if you just have a timer of like 20 hours or something like that, and the player has no, like, if you'd have played Elden Ring, and they'd have put a timer at the top and been like, you have 20 hours to finish the game. Like, if you're going in from Dark Souls or Sekiro or Bloodborne, you're like, yeah, 20 hours, I can do that. But no, because Elden Ring is like twice as long as any of those games, right? So if you actually have a progress bar alongside the timer, then you can sort of get the player in the right headspace, because they know basically how much they need to do, and they can sort of parse out how much time they have to dick around in a babbling brook or whatever. I love that you have so many ways to get to different locations, so it's still linear, but you can end up in different locations based on what you decide to do and mechanics they interact with. Yeah, this was actually an idea I had for a cowboy game in a PlayStation 1 style I wanted to do. It was going to be a hybrid of Silent Hill, Blood Meridian, and I think it was... it may have been Eco. And that was basically the idea, was that you're going over the desert, and it's a linear path through the desert, but the desert is quite wide, so, like, you can navigate it in different interesting ways.
An active game was created where countless different events.
Also, the timer is super generous. Yeah, but, like, in Fallout, it is very generous. But the problem is, because there is no players don't have context for how far they are in the story, they may not know that. So they have all the, like, there's so much going against them experimenting with the gameplay, and everything is sort of pushing them to just rush through it. Well, maybe next Sunday we'll do a movie night on the Fergus Urquhart post-mortem. Or was it Fergus Urquhart? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was his name. I can't remember his name. I think it was Fergus Urquhart.
To complete the basic game design.
Of the power to make. Yes, the power. Triforce of the power.
So, next, let's find out how the technical director, Mr. Dota, the man with the Triforce of Wisdom, actually realized this multiplicative.
If you never played the game, you would not know that the timer is generous. Yeah. Oh my god. For a second there, I thought I was looking at Ezra Miller.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Takuhiro Dota, and I am the technical director of Breath of the Wild.
Vi sitter här in Ventrilo och spelar liga Dota.
And have contributed to a variety of titles. As a game
Well, we'll cut that from the stream. When it's a VOD, I'll remove that section. It makes me look like a nerd.
今作では我々のチームプログラマーも実面で多くの当たり前を見直しました。
It is kind of crazy to think that we're further removed from Breath of the Wild than Breath of the Wild is from Skyward Sword. It's also not true, I think. Yeah, I think we're as far removed. I think it's 6 years for both of them.
AI アニメーションアセットやタスク管理システムまで数多くの技術的な挑戦に挑んできました。
From the terrain system used to construct a massive world.
True, you wouldn't, but honestly, good. Like, look, I'm not opposed to making the player uncomfortable. I'm just saying what the developers felt.
AI, animation, even our pipeline for asset creation and managing tasks, we were forced to rethink our approach to all sorts of tech-related challenges.
それぞれに面白いストーリーがあるんですが、時間の都合
Gamers are too averse to a little pressure and uncertainty. Yeah, I think that's fair.
The ways we solve these challenges make for interesting stories in and of themselves.
But like, I think a timer would probably work better for Fallout if it were also like not an open world with the expectation of you're gonna scrounge around the world and really immerse yourself in it.
I'd like to talk today about how
I don't know.
about realizing this idea.
I think it's also like it's also a question of like when games like Fallout have survival modes, where if you have a survival mode, you're playing a very different game. So having a timer like that, it puts you in a very different mind space, and you're playing you're playing a different game basically.
That Mr. Fujibashi mentioned previously.
物理と化学です。
It's actually a matter of physics and chemistry.
といっても小難しい講義ではありませんので。
Chemistry, interesting.
But don't worry, this won't be an academic lecture or anything.
ゼルダの伝説はアクションゲームです。当たり前を見直すために我々はアクションゲームのプリミティブな部分まで立ち戻って考えてみることにしました。
I consider the Legend of Zelda games to be action games. To go about our business of breaking conventions, we decided to take a step back and think about the most primitive elements of action games.
See, this is also really interesting because when you're like analyzing design decisions games made, it's really useful to have this sort of information. Like we have Dota here talking about how he considers it to be an action game. So from that conceptualization, you can come to understand a lot of the decisions made early on that sort of grandfathered their way deep into the game's core. Whereas if I was given the task of making a Zelda game, I think these are adventure games. Lordy, it's a loading!
アクションゲームの最小構成はコリジョンと移動、そしてステートです。
In its most basic components, an action game is made up of collision, movement, and object states.
コリジョンと移動、一般的にはこれがゲームにおける物理と呼ばれます。
Taken together, collision and movement make up what we call.
I should really do a video on Zelda again. It's been a long time.
ただし、ゲーム開発には教科書通りの物理ではなく、
It's Super freaking Mario, huh? I always straight up Nintendo's NES era lineup, garbage art styles, garbage all across the board. Look at Mario's weird boot. Look at, he also has like, hold on, chat, I'm gonna have a little spurg out here. Fine, this... Okay, this is... Okay, whatever. Why this dot here at the end of their nose? I don't get it. Why isn't their nose just a square? Like, I don't get this final dot here. It looks so ridiculous to me. Anyways.
Comes to game development, you don't want the sort of physics you find in a textbook, but a kind that fits the needs of the game you're making.
我々はこれをゲーム物理と呼んでいます。
They were all made for CRTs, those? Yeah, but like... They still looked kind of trash.
Since the NES era, a plethora of games have added to our understanding of this concept of game physics.
Actually, I do like the texturing of the pipes. Hold on, let's jump back 5 seconds. To this day, this would be how you make like a metal pipe in a game, right? The shading is absolutely spot on. I will give them that. But like the ground, no, this looks bad. Like the bushes and the clouds, they're just the same texture, except the bushes in the backgrounds are painted green. And then they have like this really ugly hill here. It's just like, ugh. But at the same time, I'm like, look, they got the tech right. They got the gameplay right. And that's ultimately what matters. If you have to choose gameplay or visuals, gameplay. Gameplay, gameplay, gameplay. Mario 3 is still the best Mario design in my opinion. I think Mario 3 actually, didn't that game overhaul a lot of the NES visuals? I feel like I hear that game have a lot of love art style wise. I know a lot of people in Super Mario Maker really preferred, really liked that that asset pack. Cool Flappy Bird reference.
We also end up telling these
They're called
lies to
sprites. What did I call them?
processing power, and sometimes even to increase the sense of realism.
Take away that square, then come back. I could. I've done it, like I tweeted about it once, and I think it looks
On
better.
the other hand, if we're telling lies, what use do we have for the laws of physics?
That was actually a good point about the CRT. I would have to look at it in a CRT to know. But it's kind of like the same thing with Link, where like his nose is like an extra pixel long. He looks like Usopp from One Piece.
Players encounter in-game events they've
I don't know.
observed in the real
Look,
world.
chat, maybe my standards for pixel art are just a bit too high, huh? Maybe Nintendo, you know, maybe I need to cut Nintendo some slack. They were trying their best.
Clever lies we tell in games.
もちろんゼルダシリーズも例外ではありません。謎解きやアクションをより直感的にするため、多くのゲーム物理が使われてきました。
And of course, the Zelda series is no exception to this. Past
Hey, chat,
titles
what's your
have made
favorite,
full use of game physics to make
3D
performing
Zelda?
actions
And also, what's your least favorite 3D Zelda? My favorite is Majora. My least favorite is probably Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword. It's actually, nah, you know, it's probably
One of the joys
Twilight
of being a
Princess.
programmer is deciding
I don't know.
just how to go about telling our clever lies and how to best express the things that happen in an imaginary
At least it doesn't
world.
have pink hair. That's actually like I don't get why A Link to the Past. I don't get why he has pink hair in that one. It's never made sense to me, and I've never heard anybody explain it. Because like on all the artwork, I think he's like blonde in all of it, or maybe it's brown. No, I think it's blonde in all of it. He has brown hair in the NES
今
artwork.
作では開発初期から自由度の高さが大きなテーマとして上がっていました。
Makes Mario more aerodynamic. The Mario 3? Maybe. Or are you talking about the nose that makes him more aerodynamic?
例えばあらゆるオブジェクトをどこにでも持ち運べるといった自由度で、頑張ればスタート地点にある岩を最後のボスのところに運べるぐらいの自由度です。
For example, the freedom to carry any object you like to any location in the game. If you try hard enough, you can roll this rock from the beginning of the game to the place you fight the final boss.
Yo, that's crazy.
しかしこれは物理シミュレーションに対して複雑で無限のシチュエーションを
And because it's a Japanese company, we know that the final boss is clearly full of penises. Because it's all blurred in the
But of course,
background.
in a physics
Penises or
simulation,
nipples,
you
I
have
should
to
say.
make this sort of thing possible in a set of complex and near infinite situations.
このままでは物理シミュレーションの基礎的な
Ocarina of Time is the only 3D Zelda
し
game I finished.
かし我々が本当
Ooh,
に
you
表現
got a
したいの
lot
は
of good games
新しい
waiting for
ゲー
you,
ム
my
物理です
man.
The development resources associated with creating this type of physics simulation would be immense, but we were dead set on making the physics in this game fun.
今までと同じアプローチではそこに届く前に息切れしてしまいそうでした。
We realized that if we continued using the same approach we had in previous games, we'd run out of steam long before reaching our goal.
そこで検証の結果、我々は物理シミュレーションにハボックを導入することにしました。
And so, after running some tests, we decided to use Havoc to help create our physics simulation.
Havoc
ハボックはゲ
MVP
ーム業界で長年の実績
is
があ
the
ります
physics engine of
権力や権力
Demon
や
Souls,
力の魅力
Dark Souls,
この
Arkham City, hello?
ついてみようと考えました。
Havoc, absolutely MVP of the physics world.
Not to mention its proven track record in the game industry, made Havoc an appealing choice. This would enable us to tell all the clever lies we wanted.
ブレス・オブ・ザ・ワイルドで新しく導入したアクションやアイテムはゲーム物理を生かしたものが多くなっています。これは本当に作りたい部分に注力できた結果と言えます。
Most of the actions and items we've introduced in Breath of the Wild rely heavily on game physics. This came from being able to focus our efforts on the elements we most wanted to make.
いくつかの例を紹介したい
The
と思い
cat
ま
is
す。
straight up just sleeping in a pile of socks right now.
まず新しいアイテムのステイシスです。オブジェクトの時間を止めることができます。
First is Stasis, a rune that allows you to stop the effects of time on specific objects.
止めているだけに見えますが、
This
実際はオブジェクト
is-
自身が止まり続けるための運動をしているといった処理になっています。
Ooh, I think probably the magnet is my favorite one of these powers.
Internally, the object is working hard to maintain its stasis.
エネルギー保存の法則です。
But like with this stuff, there's so much game-breaking stuff you can do with this. Like,
Conservation of energy.
people freeze a lock, hit it to fly halfway across the map, jump on top of it, and then they just take Link for a ride.
これこそが現実
I don't
の
know.
家
I don't
の
know.
を作れる
Maybe I need to get better at the game to truly appreciate the stasis
Feels right in
mechanic.
the moment it happens, but makes less sense the more you stop and think about it. Game physics are at their best when they let you create things like this that can't exist in reality.
続いてこちらも
That's also another interesting,
Are at their best when they less sense the more you stop and think about it. Game physics are at their best when they let you create things like this that can't exist in reality.
That's really an interesting sort of admission to where we get like another insight into the way he views
多くのオブジェクトを自由に操れ
what
ま
the
す。
function of these mechanics and these implementations and
Which
stuff
allows
are.
you to move metal objects at will.
Magnesis.
磁力に見えますが、磁力ではありません。磁力に見える何かです。
Not magnetism?
操作性を実践せず、シミュレーションも破綻させないという両立がポイントになっています。
It looks like magnetism, but it isn't actually. Instead, it's something like magnetism. The point here
Oh.
is to prevent instability from a programming perspective without sacrificing control for the player.
He sure showed me.
藤林の説明にもあった壁登りです。
And
Stasis
here's
is
the
a
rock
speedrunner
climbing
tool?
that
Huh.
Mr. Fujibashi also mentioned.
I mean, if they're counting the rock climbing, then yeah, obviously the rock climbing is the best of these.
この実装は担当プログラマーのこだわりで、このおかげで動くオブジェクトにも登れるようになっています。コンストレントを解く部分はハボクが担ってくれています。
By creating a dynamic constraint between Link and the surface he's climbing, we connect him to it. The programmer in charge of this climbing movement really focused on getting it right, and thanks to that effort, we were able to make Link climb moving objects.
The programmer. People, this is like the... So, in Arkham Asylum, there was one programmer in charge of Batman's cape. Like, all of the animations and all of the functions of Batman's cape, one guy was in charge of that. Here they have one guy in charge of the
in a
climbing.
satisfying way. And it's Havoc that did the work of solving the issue.
And you
of
know,
constraint.
good job. The cape was great, and the climbing was great. I feel like if you're hired for one of these games, like if Nintendo brought me out and they were like, Aesir, you're gonna work on the new Zelda game, and you're gonna be in charge of the bow. And every function that includes the bow, you're gonna be in charge of that. If I failed to deliver, I would deservedly be fired, right? If you're like, you have nobody to blame but yourself, if you have all that power to govern a mechanic or a system like that and you screw it up.
Possible by a false
I was the cape guy.
切れた瞬間に丸太オブジェクトに切り替えています。
The moment the tree begins to fall, it transforms into a log object.
水に落ちれば浮かびます。この水に浮かぶというのもゲームデザインとして非常に重要な意味を持ちます。浮かぶ際は独自の仮想的な浮力をゲーム物理として
There's a really good, convenient little part where all the branches fall off.
This ability to float in water holds an important meaning for game design. When an object floats in the game, it means you've invented a unique but illusory kind of floating.
さて、そろそろ藤林からのお題の掛け算
I'd have
の
loved
遊
him
び
to
に
go a
話を
bit
戻
more
し
over
ましょう。
the buoyancy
Now I'd like
mechanic.
to get back to the theme of multiplicative gameplay that Mr. Fujibashi mentioned.
ゲーム物理を試行錯誤していく過程で我々は一つのことに気がつきました。世界を一貫した物理法則でつなげていくと試してみたくなることがどんどん増えていくのです。
In our various experiments of trial and error with game physics, there was one thing that we noticed. If you unify your
Tell him
game
to set
world with a
Takayoshi
set of
Sato free in
consistent
exchange.
physics rules, the player will
Listen,
come up with
people.
ideas.
Takayoshi Sato, he's done enough, okay? He deserves his rest, being visual producer of Luigi's Mansion and Mario Tennis or whatever he does. He's done enough for us. He deserves to just chill and coast working for Nintendo.
For all sorts of things they want to try.
You'd ask if they can include still water to the
So,
bowl.
for example, this
What?
little slab is placed here to allow you to
Huh?
cross this river.
でも実際に鉄板を持ち上げてみると敵の頭の上に落としてみたいという衝動に駆られました。
But once you pick it up, you might find yourself suddenly wanting to try dropping it on top of an enemy.
川に浮かんだ丸太を見ていると飛び乗りたくなります。
Once you see that log floating on the river, it's natural to want to try jumping on it.
ただ乗って流れていくだけでも楽しそうです。これは先ほどのプロトタイピングにもありましたね。
Just riding a log down a river seems like it would be fun. You might remember this from the prototype earlier.
動くものにも登れるということは巨大な敵の体に登れたらどういう戦いが作れるか。
And if you can climb moving objects, what sort of battle would unfold if you were fighting a giant enemy that you could climb?
ステイシスで勢いをつけた
Oh, yeah,
オ
oh,
ブ
yeah.
ジェクトに登ると、さて何が起きるか。
What would happen if you climbed an object that you'd charged up with energy using stasis?
ポイントはこのような余地
Okay, so I actually
を掴んだという
I
点
really like that they did all
開
these
発者視
thought
点ではな
bubbles.
くユーザー視点として湧き上がってきます。
My point is that I ended up getting flooded with ideas like this. My excitement was coming not from my perspective as a developer, but as a player.
And that's actually something that's really beautiful about Breath of the
I
Wild
tried
is
that, or wait, maybe this.
how much opportunity space there is for everything.
遊んでいて試したいことが次々と
Like he's talking about, you just chop down a log, and now that log can stay with you for the rest of the game.
This would be a world where combining simple elements could produce complex results, where you'd feel the thrill of imagining the things you wanted to try as you
Is he
played.
gonna say emergent
realized
gameplay
that
though?
was the
Will
game
Nintendo admit that this is not a unique idea they had?
さて少し話題を変えます。彼らは我々のチームメンバーです。
Okay, now I'd like to switch topics a bit. These two are members of our development team.
当たり前を見直すにはどうすればいいのかディスカッションしてます。楽しそうですね。
Are they gonna talk about the
Just
food
how we
mechanic
go
now?
about breaking these conventions of ours. Looks like they're having a good time.
ディスカッションにも熱がこもります。
This must be a heartfelt conversation.
だいぶヒートアップ
Okay,
します
okay, you're kind of padding it. You're padding it.
Okay, now it looks like things are really heating up. It was during this discussion that a certain key word was born.
世の中には物理エンジンはあるのに、なんで化学エンジンはないの？
If physics engines are such a thing, why don't you ever hear about chemistry engines?
ご存知の通り、ゼルダシリーズでは化学で起きる事象もゲーム
My brother in
要素
Quest,
として取り入れてき
didn't
ま
you
す
know you already did that in Ocarina?
The Zelda series has long made use of the sort of events that occur in chemistry as in-game elements.
Yeah.
物理と同じように現実の
Yeah,
自然
but
現
it's
象
all
をヒントに
context
した
sensitive.
謎解きはユーザーに説明いらずの直感的なヒントをもたらします。
Just like with physics, creating puzzles with solutions that reference the way the real world works can help players solve them instinctively.
我々はケミストリーエンジンを開発することにしました。
And so, we decided to develop a chemistry engine.
ではケミストリーエンジンとは何ですか？
Oh!
So what exactly is this chemistry engine?
物理エンジンは言い換えるとルールに基づいた動きの計算機
This
です。
game must be such a nightmare under the
Engine is as a rule-based movement
Ah.
calculator.
like
これに対して我々はケミストリーエンジンをルールに基
it's
づいた
actually probably really fun to work on the chemistry
In
engine,
comparison, we decided
but the
that
physics
chemistry
engine must be
is a
just
rule-based
a nightmare.
state calculator.
繰り返しになりますがアクションゲームはコリジョンと移動ステート変化から成り立っています。
I mentioned this before, but action games are made up of collision plus movement plus changing states.
このステート変化
I
を
could never get into this
計
game.
算
I
する
find
のが
myself
ケミストリーエン
booting
ジン
Dark Souls 1 every time I
And
pick up
it's our
my Switch to
chemistry
try and
that
play this
calculates
after
what's
about an
produced
hour.
in the state of things.
See, I think that's totally fair. I think that
では実際にケミストリーエンジン
Breath of the
が
Wild
どのように
is
計
the
算が
world's
行われている
greatest
か
sandbox,
我々のデザインを簡単に紹
but
介します。
there's nothing happening in it. So like the game is as much fun as you can draw out of it, and I feel like for Tears of the Kingdom, they can't just add more stuff to it. They need to take the mechanics and the sandbox they already have, and they need to sort of rework it into a tighter, better directed package.
続いて木や石といったオブジェクト、あるいはプレイヤーや武器など実体のあるものをマテリアルと呼ぶことにします。
Next, we call solid objects like trees and rocks, even the player character and weapons, materials.
ケミストリーエンジンはこれらをシンプルな
Materials,
モデルで計算します。
The chemistry engine uses these things to make its calculations based on 3 simple rules.
まずルール1、エレメントはマテリアルのステートを変えます。
First up is Rule 1. Elements can change the state of materials.
葉っぱが燃えてなくなりました。
Whoa!
So the leaves on the tree burn up and disappear.
He straight up burnt that tree, yo.
次にルール2、エレメント同士はお互いのステートを変化させます。
Next is Rule 2. Elements are able to change each other's states.
I love how video game physics, chemistry, video game rules, they always like aim to look as much like reality as you can, but they always basically devolve back to like Aristotelian physics, where it's like, yes, when metal and water collide, then you get abonium, and abonium, when that touches smoke, why you get fire. So abonium minus fire is like just nonsense, but it's okay that it's nonsense because it just needs to look and play right. It doesn't need to be right.
Materials cannot influence each other's states.
何もステートの変化は起きません。
So you can see neither of them changed.
これがケミストリーエンジンです。非常にシンプルなモデルですが。
Have you ever played Shadow of War or Mordor? No, but I followed Ken Levine on Twitter when he was playing it, and he loved that Nemesis system they have. And I think that Nemesis system, that's something that people need to take another look at, because I think that's really interesting. So long as it feels right, it's right. Yeah. That's also the rule for storytelling. Because you're never like, a story is not your way of simulating reality. A story is your way of like video games especially. They're not reality simulators. They're drama managers.
All these types of interactions.
I despise them for patenting the Nemesis system. See, I hate software patents. I think software patents should be illegal. It's so ridiculous.
Wait, are electricity and wind a part of chemistry?
Especially like if you're gonna use the Nemesis system, you better damn well actually make games that have it. You can't just do 2 of them and then give up on it. Hello? Warner Brothers Games? Are you kidding me?
Aside from rigid body dynamics, we consider all phenomena that occur in nature to be chemistry.
ですから風や雷もすべてエレメントとして計算されます。その方がこのブレスオブザワイルドの世界をシンプルにモデル化できるからです。
And so for our purposes, things like wind and electricity are all considered to be
all software patents. Get rid of them. It's ridiculous.
A simplified method with which to model the world.
我々は化学を再現するエンジンが作りたかったのではありません。
It's not that we wanted to create an engine that replicates chemistry.
Oh. Is he gonna repeat what I said?
Instead, we wanted to create a state calculator for all these objects that are connected to one another.
Alright, he didn't, thank God.
もう一つ我々がこれをケミストリーと呼び続けた理由があります。
So many developers were pissed at them because they were using elements of other games like Assassin's Creed. Yeah, it's like, you dickwads, you can't copyright something in your frickin' Assassin's Creed copycat. What are you doing? Also, it's like, so wait a minute, you're using the license from the Tolkien estate, the gameplay of Assassin's Creed, and you have the gall to demand copyright? Are you kidding me? Or a patent? It's ridiculous.
エレメントは時に力を発生して物理世界と干渉します。そうして物理と化学というルールをもとに世界がつながっていきました。
Given the right situation, elements can also generate energy and impact the physical world. In this way, all the constituent parts of the world we created are governed by our rules of physics and chemistry.
This I like. This I like. Lightning.
我々の求めていた掛け算でいろいろなことができるゲームが生まれてきました。
And with that, we had the game that we had hoped to make, one that used multiplication to increase the things you were able to do.
冒頭の藤林のどうやったら掛け算で遊べるゲームが実現できるかの問いに
Connect everything in the world. Yeah, but see, this is also kind of my problem with Breath of the Wild is that this is an amazing system, amazing game you created, but this is not good in and of itself, right? The best parts of Ocarina are like the Kokiri Forest or that cave or that area that's completely drenched in darkness, and you need to like have a torch at a hand to see 2 meters ahead of you, or that island where they strip you of all of your material. Like whenever the game took the reins of, like whenever the game just took control of the experience and actually directed me to do stuff, I thought it was an amazing game. But when it was just me dicking around in like on top of a mountain with some trees and pineapples and whatever, I'm like, what is even the point here?
Earlier, Mr. Fujibashi posed the question, how can we create a game that uses multiplication to expand gameplay? It turns out our answer to this was to build connections between everything in the world.
ゲーム内で皆さんが目にするものはすべてつながりを持っています。
This means that everything you see in the game is linked together, so to speak.
Haha.
それは気まぐれなつながりではありません。直感的で一貫性のあるつながりとしてデザインされています。
And these connections don't simply occur by accident. Instead, they're intentionally designed to have an overall consistency and to feel instinctive.
もちろん楽しい嘘も大いに含んでいます。
And of course, they contain all sorts of those clever lies we like to tell.
ただ我々も最初からアプローチの
Nintendo
があったわけではありません。そこでプロトタイピングを手早く行うために 2D というアプローチを取りました。それが冒頭で出てきたこの 2D ゼルダです。
Surfing on a shield. I love that. I love that you can surf on shields. It's such a dumb but such a fun
I used 2D
mechanic.
graphics to quickly create a prototype as a proof of concept. That was the image of 2D Zelda that you saw earlier.
ゲームを記号化し
Give me this game. I want to play this, man.
プロトタイピングのメリットです。
2D prototyping is handy in that it allows you to reduce the game to a set of symbols and clearly display the logic behind an idea.
Yo!
とはいえ
That's
ご
nuts.
覧の通り実は 3D です。中では物理エンジンとケミストリーエンジンのプロトタイプが動いていました。
But as you can see, this prototype is actually in 3D, and under the hood there were early versions of our physics and chemistry engines at work.
I just look at this and I'm like, why do I make videos again? Why don't I just do video games? Because this is so much fun, just like creating all these interesting systems and figuring out unique and interesting ways of utilizing them. Sorry for the chair creak, but I have to reposition myself. My legs. They took down the fan game of this. Listen, Cryface, I don't have any sympathy for anybody who gets burnt by Nintendo's army of lawyers at this point. If you are messing around with Nintendo IPs in any way, shape, or form, Nintendo's gonna come for you. It's not 2010. I don't have time to be sympathetic anymore. We know they do this. You can't do this. You can't mess around with this and expect sympathy in any way, shape, or form. Nintendo does not reward fan projects. Stop doing them. Imagine if instead of this is actually what irks me so much is that people will spend 7 years doing a Metroid remake only for Nintendo to shut it down. my brother in Christ, imagine if you'd have spent those 7 years doing like a Morrowind remake as an isometric RPG. Right? Right? Imagine if you'd have done that. Or imagine if you'd have been like, yeah, I'm going to do another isometric Fallout. And I'm going to spend 7 years on that. Not only would Bethesda not have shut that down, Bethesda would have almost certainly paid that guy like $30 million. Like, I'm exaggerating. But Bethesda would have, like, you'd have a career. Bethesda would want to work with you because they actually, like, they nurture fan stuff. So, like, you know, it sucks that Nintendo is this way, but they are this way. So, you know, don't be stupid with the time you spend creating fan projects.
It should also inspire you to experiment and try out all sorts of ideas.
More like if they announce their projects before releasing it. Yeah, also stop doing that. Jesus Christ, why, like,
We've filled every corner of
Nintendo doesn't want fan projects. They want very strict control over their properties.
correct
That is their prerogative. But if you're going to do it anyways, at least, like, rub your two brain cells together and figure out how to do it without being a moron. Like, don't announce it. Just drop it day one. The day it's ready, drop it. Don't try to hype it up. If it's good, it'll get the attention from the people. Oof. Too much like Zelda, they said. Don't make me tap the sign cut to the definition of insanity taped to the wall. Or make a Capcom fan game. They love him as far as I know. Yeah, imagine if you made like a snail fan game. I would send my army of lawyers at you so freaking Nah, I'm joking. You can if anybody out there wants to make a snail fan game, you can do that. Or if anybody wants to like steal assets from my game and use in their game, have at it. I don't care. Bethesda exists because of mods. They finish their games. Yeah. Bethesda knows better than to bite the hand that feeds. Or use what you already have to make a different thing for Metroid and make it more interesting. Yeah, like if you have to do it, be like, if you absolutely need to announce it, you announce it as, okay, so I was a big Metroid fan, and here are the things that I liked about Metroid, and I wanted to make a Metroid remake. Like, I wanted to make a Metroid fan game. But I don't really want to go up against Nintendo because I'm not stupid. So I decided to make just, it's not called Metroid, it's called Zimtroid. And it's not about Zam as a ran, it's about Blatty McGee. And she is mother to the Zimtroids. And it's just like, it's Metroid, but it's not Metroid. You know? Just like, be legally distinct enough. Capcom invited some of the creators of Mega Man Forever into their studios and praised them. See, this is the sort of beautiful stuff I like. I mean, this is a creative industry, and you have people like Nintendo, people like over those old boomers over at Nintendo who still think the internet is like a bubble. But like, no, like you have to nurture these people. This is actually, like, unironically, this is why George Lucas is the greatest filmmaker of all time. Because George Lucas nurtured fan projects like nobody else. Like nobody else. Not only is he like the most influential movie maker of all time, everybody who makes movies is responding to George Lucas in one way or another. And then, like, not only did he completely transform the industry, he did it twice. He did it in the late 70s, and then he did it again in the early 2000s. Like, at best, Jar Jar Binks, shitty character, but all of that technology, George Lucas pioneered that. Andy Serkis didn't create the mocap character. George Lucas began that stuff, right? So it's like, you know, it's like you live in a creative industry. You can't be a bit more nurturing of these people? I don't know.
Screen?
And look. If my games ever become super successful and I begin sniping down people who make fan projects, you're not allowed to hold what I'm saying here against me in the future. You better not. Another Metroid Remake 2 is still getting updates from other people, and Stable Diffusion proves that anything like a Metroid would still be used around today, but it was just open sourced first. Yeah. They handled the Prime remake pretty well. People have been begging it for years. That's why you used the strat of saying it was inspired by Metroid or Zelda. Yeah. Axiom Verge was a Metroid clone. Yep. Where are we at? Okay, half an hour? I can do another half an hour. That's fine.
Was to create a world where fun occurs through multiplication, as opposed to one in which fun elements are simply added together in a sum
Just
total.
say your lawyers made you do it. If Nintendo came for me, I'd be like, actually, my uncle works at Nintendo, so you're not allowed to sue me.
You create a situation in which
But you guys know what I mean, where it's like, these are your most talented and your most devoted people, and you're bleeding them by going after them like this. Like, I don't know. Imagine how much better it would be. Like, imagine a Nintendo which sees all these fan projects, and instead of sending lawyers at them at the cost of millions of dollars a year, they just created a Nintendo fan club license. So, yeah, you can, like, if your Zelda game that you make is good, and Nintendo playtests it, and they're like, yeah, it's adequately bug fixed, and there's no nudity, there's no hidden dicks or anything in it. They reach out to you and they're like, look, do you want to publish it for real? We take 50% of the profits, but you get to have the Nintendo fan club license stapled on top of it, and you get to make some money from it. But we get 50%, which is like an outrageous number, but they could get away with it. And I think, like, just, there's so many smarter ways of going about things.
Coming up with their own solutions to the game's puzzles and challenges.
Bold, because I've never had fun doing multiplication. You have, though. It's just always been contextualized as stuff like this. What is this if not algebra in action? Woo! They'll drop you from their club thing for thingy for creators if they critique anything wrong with their games. That's true. That's true. Don't forget Nintendo reprimanding their spokesman for even saying Nuzlocke. Yeah, that's so, like, it's so weird. It's so weird and so dumb. Oh, gosh, Nintendo, come on. Come on. Like, you know what Todd Howard was recently on the Lex Friedman podcast, and you know what he was talking about? I think there was like a 15-minute segment where he was talking about all these PlayStation games that he loves. It's like, the dude works for Xbox. And he's just like, yeah, I look at the tech that they have over at Santa Monica, and like I look at the lighting and the animations they have over at Naughty Dog, and I'm just flabbergasted. It's so cool that what these people are able to do, and there's just like, there's so much love there. And then you have Nintendo, and I'm like, imagine going on a Nintendo stage and being like, by the way, guys, Ratchet & Clank is pretty cool, huh? Miyamoto would chase you down with a shotgun.
さて話は変わりますが、Wii U 版の開発途中、一通のメールが届きました。
Now, changing subjects, I want to show you an email we received during development of the Wii U version of the game.
That's actually pretty good.
任天堂スイッチでもリリースするというミッションが加わりました。さすがプロデューサーです。藤林よりも強い行ってみる勇気の持ち主です。
We were given the additional mission of releasing the game for Nintendo Switch. And that's a producer for you. He has even more of that courage to say than Mr. Fujibayashi.
This is pretty good. Good timing, good comedic timing.
しかし結論から言えば、任天堂スイッチへの対応は思ったよりも簡単でした。
They just want to make games and leave literally everything else up to everyone else. Yeah, that's so beautiful about like the software industry is that the software industry is still young enough that it hasn't quite calcified. And because it hasn't, you don't have fossil companies like GE or like Ford or Texaco or ExxonMobil or anything like that, where like the whole operation is just a conveyor belt at this point, and every now and then you sort of need to reorganize, like you need to change direction by 1 or 2 degrees. The gaming industry is like, and the software industry, it's still so young that there's there's so much innovation still coming from the bottom up that that sort of loving dynamic is still very apparent in the people that work
簡単に
there.
まとめてみます
But to cut to the chase, adapting the game for the Nintendo Switch was easier than
Don't
we
they
thought
go
it
after
would be.
people who still
And that's
support
my
Smash
honest
Bros on
opinion as a game
GameCube?
developer. I'll
I don't
sum up
know.
what I mean.
Maybe.
まず SDK としてはこのような点が特に助けになりました Nintendo SDK が
It's just
Nintendo
weird. And then they were
Switch
like,
の開発環境です
I know they took
First,
Smash
the
Bros.
SDK helped us
off
out
of some
quite a bit.
fighting tournament
The
because they
Nintendo
wanted to.
SDK is
Wasn't
the
that though
standard
because they wanted to have their
Nintendo
own Smash Bros.
Switch.
tournament? I don't know.
またハード面でもご覧のような素直なアーキテクチャで使いやすかったです
On the hardware side as well, the attributes you can see on screen gave it a versatile architecture that was easy to work with.
私はゲーム
Actually, something I do like about the Nintendo Switch is that, and I think I've talked about this fairly recently, is that the dev kit only costs like $5,000. So, if you are an independent game developer and your game does okay enough, you can kind of justify buying it and porting your game over to Nintendo. I think it's like an extra $1,000 maybe to get it over and to like a review process and such. And then like you have another 100 million players who are able to play your game, and maybe you get like, I don't know, 30,000 sales or something. It's like, it kind of pays for itself if your game is okay.
キューブ以降の Nintendo DS、Wii、3DS、Wii U といったすべてのプラットフォームのソフト開発に携わってきましたが、アーキテクチャを意識したトリッキーな実装が必要なかったのは、
And like their dev kit is surprisingly open. You can just buy it.
Nintendo DS, the Wii, 3DS, and Wii U, but this was the first time there was no need to implement any tricky workarounds because of hardware architecture.
最初にゲームが動くようになった
And I'm really interested in that concept of them, like I think it was Doug Bowser or somebody who talked about how the Nintendo Switch is going to
but had yet to do any
going to
optimization. We were
going to
already
make
seeing
us
frame
rethink
rates
about
that
our
were better than
conceptualization of a console lifecycle, where it's like, oh crap, is the Nintendo Switch just going to be Nintendo's flagship console for like
We also
another
began
10
to
years?
look for ways to use
Because
the
that would be
Breath of
kinda
the Wild
cool.
to show off the appeal of the platform itself.
The eShop is all kind of crap, it's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
このような遊び道具を使ったゲームデザインは我々の得意とするところです
Yeah, I really want to have
ワールドではそれらを使った遊びを取り入れていません
Snail Director's Cut on Nintendo Switch. I think that would be really cool to have like an officially Nintendo published game.
And I think we excel at designing games
But like
that take
obviously
advantage of these
pending
tools for play. However, Breath of the
like
Wild
the game would have to pay for the dev kit and such. I
ブ
can't
レスオブザワイルドで
dip
は
into
Wii U
my
と
own
Nintendo
personal
Switch
funds to
で
do
同
that
じゲーム
stuff.
デザインをお客さんに提供したいと考えていました
Is he just gonna be talking about the damn Nintendo Switch now, man? This is a 7-year-old console. You can't be doing this.
Nintendo Switch.
A 6-year console. I don't
一方
know.
で歴代ハードを振り返ってみてもローンチタイトル
Let's
は
see.
そのハード
Does he-
の魅力を分かりやすく伝えるという使命を持っています
Okay, they talk more about Breath of the Wild
Looking
in a bit.
back on our previous hardware, we've always had launch titles that carry the additional duty of making the appeal of the hardware easy to see.
ではブレスオブザワイルドは何を
That would be
伝えよう
dope.
と
Yeah,
した
that
の
would be
か
dope. It would be super cool.
But then, what did we want to try and convey?
I'd be
with this
the
version of the
I'd
game?
be
それはどこにでも持ち出せると
yeah
いう魅力
yeah
です
yeah.
It's the novelty of being able to take it
I was gonna
with
say
you
I was
anywhere
I
you
would
go.
be the only Icelandic game developer, but I'm like no, I wouldn't. EVE Online and like a bunch of crappy mobile
その
games.
ことに一番最初に驚いた
I'd be the
のは我
first
々
good
です
Icelandic game
その
developer.
驚きをぜひそのままお客さんや開発者の皆さんに伝えたいと思いましたブレスオブザワイルドほどその魅力を簡単に味わえるタイトルはないと思います
And also, that you get this added value automatically without having to design for it. We were the first ones to be caught off guard and surprised by this, and it's something I wanted to make sure to convey to both fans and developers alike. I don't think there's a better title for showing off this feature than Breath of the Wild.
最終的にはグラフィックスやサウンドでのクオリティアップを施しブレスオブザワイルドの任天堂スイッチ版が完成しました
Just so you know, I've already watched all of this by myself. I'm literally here for your reaction to this. Thank you, Loner Goth Online. Yeah, I would imagine that most people here have watched it. I hope most people here are not watching this the first time through me because I'm yammering over half of it.
Nintendo Switch made possible for the game.
But I go back to like
画面を見つめる我々のチーム
I go back through the GDC vault every now and then. My favorite videos really are the Fallout ones, specifically the level design ones,
The gentleman
where they're
you see
talking about
staring at
modular
us
asset
is one of
kits
the members
for
of our
Fallout 4. I
development
think that's such an interesting insight into how they design those worlds.
The game's moving, and all he's doing is.
Damn, you're watching this for the first time? You're doing yourself such a disservice. Snail on mobile isn't happening then, is it? Nah. Probably not. Because, like, also, Apple and Google take like 45 or 55% of all profits on their shops. It's like, I can't imagine a better way to disincentivize quality design on your storefront than to rob people of freaking half of the earnings. It's ridiculous. I'm pretty sure I know the answer. No. But do you think Nintendo will ever learn their lesson with Pokemon, with the most recent game and every game since Sun and Moon not having enough development time? Yet they make their money, so they have no incentive to change their ways. Maybe, see, like, I don't think you can really put that at the feet of Nintendo, because Nintendo only owns like a third of Pokemon. The other belongs to Game Freak, and then you have like the Pokemon Company, or yeah, I think it's Game Freak, Nintendo, and the Pokemon Company that all own like a third of it, or maybe like Toei or whoever owns the anime also has a part in it or something. But like, Nintendo has to have a game out at a fixed time, and the people over at Game Freak, they have to like justify the budgets they have, and the Pokemon Company, they also need a game out at a certain time. So it's like everybody is incentivized to, so like the Pokemon Company and Nintendo are both incentivized to have the game out at a certain time. Game Freak and Nintendo really want the game to be high quality, and Game Freak and the Pokemon Company want to do a lot of interesting stuff with it so that you can sort of widen the world of Pokemon and create more merchandise. So it's like everybody's interest, the three's interests never fully align. So I don't know. I would imagine like obviously everybody wants it to be good, but I don't know. Maybe if we get like a Genshin Impact, like how Genshin Impact is Breath of the Wild but more popular and more weeby, if we get a Pokemon competitor that's actually really popular, maybe we can maybe they'll have to, just because if you have a competitive brand that is actually really well polished and makes like sells like somewhat good numbers, they don't have an excuse anymore. But I don't know. It's on the Pokemon Company. They're taking the ESG money now too. Oh really? I'm pretty sure the devs behind Pokemon games wanted to make other games, but each time they go out of their way to try, they all end up back at Pokemon. Yeah. Many such cases, man. Many such cases.
Here are some concept sketches of the main character, Link.
Yo, give me... Hold up. Let's look at Bob Haircut Link over here. Let him cook. Whoever made this, let him cook.
Main character, Link.
That's actually kind of interesting, chat, that they gave him like a dragon technology hand here, like a cursed hand. As you can see, it has like a grapple hook, it has a hammer, it has a gun that shoots a bomb. It has like, yeah, it's the grapple hook again. There's a bow out of it. It's like a chainsaw also maybe. So it's like, and that's kind of what they're doing in the sequel. So you know, chat. I love it when a character has like a cursed hand. In fact, let me play this for you while I look for it. I don't know if I have it anymore. I probably don't have it.
Here are design sketches of the ancient ruins that appear in the game.
I hate those ruins, man. More like ruining my experience. No, I don't think I have it. Sadly, chat. I wanted to show you a cool hand. I actually like that giraffe-looking thingy.
Next up, Hyrule Wars.
Link in Kyoto.
Link in Kyoto.
そして宇宙からの侵略。
And here's an invasion from outer space.
だいぶ怪しくなってきました。
Yeah, this
Ah,
thing
wait,
got-
chat. I found it. I found it. I found it. Ah, look at this. Look at this. It's very blurry, so you can't quite see, but the player character, you can have a dragon hand in the Snail remaster. Isn't that cool? You can do like dragon breath attacks and stuff. You can't hold me to that though, because I haven't I've only like done basic experimentations. Look at this.
ライダーリンク、
He looks like a loser.
ミュージシャンリンク、
Musician Link.
リンクインメトロイ
All I hear is anime trope designs.
Metroid.
Metroid,
た
that's
くさんのアイ
good.
デア
That's
があ
good.
りました。
We had a lot of ideas.
最終的に古代遺跡の
I like the idea of Breath of the Wild more than I like it in practice. Yeah, I think I'm very much there. Where like, I wish Breath of the Wild really took advantage of the fact that it's a great game, but I don't think it's quite there. I think the designers 10 out of 10. The direction is like a 5. It's so like, it so misses the mark on so many things that I really value. You know.
Final design for Link.
Can we also shout bear witness? Oh! No promises, no promises. Not enough Kegare? Oh! Oh, you guys want to see Kegare? You think you done it now. You done goofed, boy. You want to see Kegare in my game? I'll give you all the god dang Kegare you can shove a fist at, my friend. Look at give me look at it, chat. You think I can't give you Kegare? What do you think this centipede is about then, huh? Not enough Kegare. You don't ever doubt me, chat. Don't ever doubt me. Demon snails? Ah.
最終的なゲーム画面を
I'm actually thinking of calling the game Snails Have Skeletons. I think like between that title and In the Mars of Madness, I'm like I like In the Mars of Madness better, but Snails Have Skeletons, I think it really it's a lot closer to the sentiment of the game than In the Mars of Madness. Which is like 50% of that title is just because it's it rolls off the tongue really well.
本日はなぜこのアートスタイルなのかについてと
Joseph Anderson or Matthew Matos's review of Breath of the Wild. I've seen Matthew Matos's, I think. I don't know if I've seen Joseph Anderson's. I very, very rarely actually watch other people's videos about games because I'm already so opinionated, and when I disagree with somebody's take, it's really hard for me to continue watching. And I also think that I don't know about like them too, because Matthew Matos he also doing like independent game development, and I really respect that. But there's so many people in this space of talking about games who don't actually make games themselves, and it's like that's fine if you're just talking about like things you like, but when you could talk about like things from a development standpoint, I feel like you actually need to know what you're saying, because you can always sort of tell when somebody's just pulling stuff out of their, but I don't know. I haven't seen Joseph Anderson's video. I've only maybe seen Matthew Matos's video. The rot, the way it consumes.
So today I'd
Joseph
like to
Anderson
talk
is a
about why
poor
we
man's
chose
Matthew
this art
Matos's.
style.
Who am I then? I thought I was the I thought I was the poor Matthew
見直さ
Matos's.
なかった当たり前についてお話ししてみようと思います
I aim to
That
be.
is to say, what remained constant.
I'm the poor
ま
man's
ず私が
Bjork
関わってきた
because I'm
今
from
までのゼルダ
Iceland.
タイトルを振り返ってみます
So first, let's take a look at the Zelda titles I've been involved with.
時のオカリナ
Oh, Ocarina of Time. Oh, Majora's Mask. Goat.
任天堂スペースワールドでゲームキューブのお披露目をした際のテックデモです
The tech demo we revealed for GameCube at Nintendo Space World.
風のタクト
Wind Waker.
トワイライト
Oof.
プリンス
Mid. B tier. C tier.
スカイウォー
C tier. Mid.
NES のゼルダの伝説から30年
Neo, Neo Gervais, him. I feel like, yeah, I feel like I get a lot of people in the comments that are like, "Oh my God, I like you. You're a lot like him." So it's like, yeah, that's kind of
It's been
correct.
30 years since the launch of the NES Zelda. I've only been involved in a small portion.
I do think I'm look, not to like he obviously deserves all the success that he's gotten by the merit of him having gotten it. So like no shade. I do think I'm better at directing my scripts than he is, because I do feel he tends to go on more tangents than I do. And it's like, it's fine because it's like, it's such a train of thought format, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with it, but I like clean things, which may sound weird because I also am very tantrum prone. Like, I've spent more time, like, we're like 2/3 into the video, and there's like, we've already been going longer than the video is because I keep going on these. Chat keeps baiting me on like Nintendo lawyer tantrums and such. You're a fountain of blood in the shape of a snail? Yo, it's kind of crazy that you would say that. It's kind of crazy that you would call me a fountain of blood. It's kind of crazy that you would say that to me.
The game while fulfilling the playability demands without losing a feeling of reality.
Playability to did you play Golden Sun back in the day? Did I? Golden Sun.
The pleasantness of behaviors or visuals based on gameplay.
I don't think so.
Function.
I'm not
For a
familiar
game,
with
the
this.
Optimization of the pleasantness of the game cycle and response is.
You need to develop an Irish accent. I hope it's Irish is not as a part of the video. Oh yeah.
A reality players can sink into.
But back on the video. I woke the cat up from the sock basket. Or sock shelf or whatever.
As you move further away from realness, both tempo and visibility improve and the level of pleasantness increases. But the reality of the world
Getting the exclusive leaks this stream. I could spend 5 hours just showing you screenshots and you'd still have no idea what you're in for. There's so much content packed into the game at this point. I'm like 50% thinking I should take down the snail alpha because it's like that's so bare bones and so like just disjointed and incomprehensible compared to what the game has evolved into. But no, I'll keep it up. I think it's interesting to sort of be able to sort of compare and contrast.
So after Skyward Sword, how did art that makes it easy to lie have to change to bring Zelda into the HD era?
This is actually interesting.
This question was the beginning of the trial and error process which led us to the art style of Breath
Could
of
call
the
it a demo. I could call it a demo. Yo, my man here with the anime-inspired. This is a bit too technicolor, too anime for me.
Here's the tech demo HD experience we showed at E3 in 2011. In response to the adoption of high-resolution screens, we took a straightforward approach and filled the screen with a lot of detail. While doing PBR, physically based rendering tests, we tried our hand at creating common cityscapes as well. We threw models from previous titles into our new development environment and tried some HD mockups.
Hey, this looks okay.
Here's Skyward Sword.
Practically every access I watch, including Mauler, says Matthew Matos is pretty much at the gold standard, and I agree. Yeah, I mean, like, he was kind of the first one doing it.
And here's Twilight Princess.
Show me Ocarina of Time, you cowards! Ooh,
and The Wind Waker.
those blobby city streets.
このなんちゃって HD 化で群を抜いて生まれ変わった風の
I like that
タクトが
Ganon's just there in the background being a chill
私を含めた
guy.
ブレスオブザワイルドのリードアーティストたちを魅了しました。
This new Wind Waker art stood out from the other
While
HD
drinking
manga
PPRs, we
really
designed this game, and that's where you have the mini
of Breath of the
dungeons.
Wild, myself included.
Got him.
視認性
In case you never heard of him, Leadhead and Aaron Signal are essayists. I know about Aaron Signal.
それでいて独特のリアリティを構築できている。すごく嘘のつきやすい
Aaron Signal introduced me to a Kitty Horror Show with that great video on anatomy.
And action, and still allows for the
I think that's
construction of a
probably the
unique
best
reality,
Aaron
with
Signal
art
video.
style with which it's super easy
It's been a
to
while
apply.
since I watched Aaron Signal though, so
10年経って
maybe
も色
not.
褪せない強いオリジナリティ
It has great originality and has remained fresh even after 10 years.
そして
Yes.
気持ちの良いプレイ感
Yes, that's why Wind Waker HD makes sense and Twilight Princess HD is like baffling because it has a good art
メイ
style.
ク作風のタクト HD
Play Twilight Princess, Link's dead soulless eyes.
Official creation of the Wind Waker HD remake.
そしてこれがブレス
You mean modern anime?
スタイルの方向が確実に定まる
Details,
ある日の
details.
出来事につながっていきます
It's also connected to something that happened one day and led directly to the finalization of the art direction for Breath of the Wild.
風のタクト HD の開発終盤になる日私はブレスオブザワイルドのディレクター藤林とプロデューサーの青沼に呼ばれました
One day during the final stages of the Wind Waker HD development process, I was summoned by Breath of the Wild director Mr. Fujibayashi and producer Mr. Aonuma.
藤林はタクト HD の画面を指さしてこれでええやん
Mr. Fujibayashi pointed to a Wind Waker HD screen
Modern
and said,
anime can be automated these days. Yeah, they could do like an anime that's like isekai anime where like the boy wakes up in the world full of the big booba ladies
即答しました
and it's like
The other
I
artist
died.
story-
The anime's name is like I died and I woke up in a world of AI women with big boobs, but their hands are all wrong. And that's like the whole premise of the anime is like all these women are so sexually attractive, but they all have like messed up hands because they were AI generated.
分足らずの出来
So he's trying to have sex with them, but he can't. That's like the premise of every anime.
風のタクト
Damn
HD
it.
の開発期間中オリジナルのプレイヤー
I don't know. I don't watch a lot of
臨
anime.
場感のある
I am actually watching One Piece right now though, so that's
熱く
fine.
増幅されていく様子は全員が見ていましたから今振り返ってみれば当然
Isekai walking, just level up by walking.
It was really surprising at the time, but looking back now and seeing how the game lost none of its originality or playability over the course of development of the Wind Waker HD, plus the fact that the entire staff witnessed the solidification and expansion of the game's reality day after day, our agreement on the issue seems quite
Something that they haven't really gone over here, and I can promise you happened many times in development, was that because they're really discussing all of these things that are really grandfathered into the game. So like the physics engine, the world structure, the approach to freedom, and now the art style. These are the things that are like the most. These are like the pillars that hold the game together, and these are also the things that you can't change them once you've made them, because changing them means you need to change everything. And I really want a talk that really talks about how, because I think a very valuable lesson for newcomers to making games is that once you've decided on the pillars of your game, you are not actually allowed to change your mind. Because if you allow yourself to change your mind, you're never going to be able to complete making the game. Right? Making a game means you need to sort of go with these pillars, the structure that you lay down. You need to actually utilize that, and that struggle of, but I have a new idea that I want to implement. I have a new idea I want to implement. That struggle is something that every developer needs to learn to have a folder in their computer that says future ideas, and you drop those ideas there. And like, who knows? I have a folder for the Snail remake, which is like last minute ideas, where I've already mapped out every change that I'm going to make. But if I get a new crazy idea, I'm going to implement that. And that's like, once everything else is ready, I'll do that. And I really wish they'd have talked more about that in this. that sort of struggle of we were pulled into this direction, we were pulled into this direction, but sadly.
This is a bit off topic, but here's something that supported our common belief that we're good at this type of art creation.
I feel like you're on the adult anime tab by mistake. The hand giver Konosuba is great. Everybody's just like, yeah, Aesir, I know exactly which anime you're talking about. I'm talking about every anime! I did actually watch the first season and a half of Konosuba before I gave up on it. There's an episode of the Essays and Espresso podcast, the podcast that I do and never talk about, where we talk about Avatar, The Last Airbender. We have Rasputin on. And I was talking at the end about like, what do I recommend next? What should we watch or read or do next? And Rasputin was like, you could talk about Konosuba. And I was like, man, do you have any idea how horny that anime is?
Main screen appeal in modern Japan, but that's not why we're here, so we're going to have to save that for another time.
さて話を戻します。風のタクトをベースにさらなる絵作りの検討を進め、最終的な絵作りのスローガンを決めました。
So let's get back to our discussion. We continued with exploring art creation based on the Wind Waker and came up with our final art
I
creation
do like this
slogan.
frog here.
すっきりとした喉越しながら芳醇な味わい。
Refreshing and full-flavored.
Yo.
ブレスオブザワイルドの絵作りの最も重要なスローガンです。
This is the very important art creation slogan we adopted for Breath of the Wild.
日本ではこのスローガンを聞くとビールを飲みたくなる人が多いと思います。
And like, it's kind of crazy going back to this video where they're talking about sorry, yawning. Where they're talking about like how refreshing and new and bold the art direction was.
なぜこのスローガンなのか。
Because literally a million games have been inspired by Breath of the Wild to look exactly the same. So Breath of the Wild kind of just looks extremely generic today. And it's just like, this is just a 6 or 5 year old video. So it's like, it's kind of, life comes at you fast,
広大な世界で物理やケミストリーの遊びを掛け算で楽しむ。
Was to fill the vast game world with fun multiplicative experiences using physics and chemistry gameplay.
And look, he succeeded. Like, no shade. If this is all you intended to do with the game, 10 out of 10, you did it. It's a great sandbox. But I've already said my piece.
The Wind Waker art style in its depiction of form, feel of materials, etc. is very stylized.
I thought for a moment like that I was watching South Park characters while I was reading this. I'm like, is this Timmy? Is this Cartman? It's like, wait, what?
One of our goals was to have the art intuitively suggest possible physics and chemistry gameplay based on the player's own experiences in the real world.
という目標を達成するには、絵的に盛大に嘘をつきすぎていました。
The problem with the Wind Waker art style is the lies it told were too big.
Oh.
またもう一つ、画面に何が描かれているかを一瞬で全部理解できてしまう絵は子供向けだと思われてしまうために、年齢層の高いプレイヤーに自分とは関係ないものと思われてしまうのではないかという風のタクトのアートスタイルに対する仮説の議論もありました。
There was also another concern with the Wind Waker art style. The concern was if older players could look at the screen for just an instant and understand everything they were seeing, they might feel the art was intended for children and was not for them.
そこで、
So,
風のタクトの嘘をつきやすい絵作りで機能に即したプレイアビリティを確保しやすい、統一されたゲーム内でのリアリティも構築しやすい。
basing the art on something easy to tell lies with, like the Wind Waker art, we could more easily guarantee function conforming to playability and more easily construct the reality within the game.
That's actually something I love about when you use pixel art, is that the natural hyper abstract form of pixel art allows you to basically, you can just do random pixel movements and you have an animation that kind of sort of makes sense.
Anyone could do in the real world. So we needed a certain level of realism.
Whereas if you're doing actual 3D modeling, like the actual rigging and the anticipation frames and such need to be a lot tighter, I feel. But at the same time, when you're doing 3D modeling, you have one model for all the animations, whereas for pixel art, you need to like redraw the entire model for every frame. So it's like, it's a trade-off, you know?
これをスローガンとし、最終的な製品のアートスタイルを確立
Good at animations or
So we
good at
used this slogan,
illustrations.
and it led to the establishment of the final art style.
シェーダーやライティング、モデル、地形、エフェクト、UI、天候環境、すべてのセクションが根幹部分で必ずこの方針を軸にしてデザインや挙動を
Refreshing and full flavor.
Shaders, lighting, models, terrain, effects, UI, weather environments. Our slogan
Oh!
is the foundation upon which all these sections constructed.
I'm yawning so crazily, Chad.
ブレス・オブ・ザ・ワイルドのゲームのテンポやゲームサイクルの効率を考えるとかなり迅速なレスポンスやイベント演出
Let's look at the results, chat. Let's look at what Breath of the Wild ended up looking like.
ことを紹介します。
So a fairly streamlined tempo and event presentation was
Elden Ring has
necessary
anticipation
to
frames for the
Breath of the Wild
anticipation
tempo
frames.
and game
Yeah, I hate
cycle.
how FromSoft, their boss design today is basically just extend the anticipation frames half a second longer to cheat out a roll too fast. It's like, guys, just do another Tower Knight. Stop trying to make these fun. Like, it makes sense in Sekiro. Like, those are great fights because the game mechanics work for that. But like, Elden Ring, the action is so bad. It's so bad action. I love this. Yeah, so good, so good.
打ったイノシシが飛んですぐ
Street Fighter 3 sprite sheet.
Poof, it's a haunch of raw meat.
Yeah. Like, that's because that's an action game where like frame perfect is so important. Where like you're basically animating. You get like a document from the programmers that are like, you have 3 frames of anticipation, and you have 102 frames of idle poses, and then you like have to be able to switch out of the idle pose every 8th frame, and then pressing a button. They have like a 3-frame time is like just like the logistics and the numbers you need to deal with for animating a game like that. No, thank you. Those are some gorgeous artworks, though. When you look at like the sort of fighting game sprites, they can be really good looking. Someone on YouTube made a video of his game where he did not create new pixel art for his characters, but instead used a 3D workflow to add stuff to his 2D character. Okay. So when the character got muddy, it was using typical 3D tech to make it look like she was muddy, even though it was still pixel art without 3D polygons. Yeah?
料理です
Alright, that's cool, that's cool. I actually think that there's also like, you can kind of see this in a lot of games, including like Super Mario Maker, where when they're like doing pixel art that rotates, they'll actually just rotate the image rather than redraw the image. I think that's such cowardice. I think it's so disgusting and pathetic when people do that. If you're going to do pixel art, you need to do pixel art. It stops being beautiful pixel art when you're just rotating the pixels. That's why, like, those Octopath Traveler games that are like pixel art, but they're also 3D, I'm like, there's something great to be done with that visual style, but just doing the same games, you could, like, just like, because the change in the visual perspective needs to be justified in the gameplay, and when you're just doing games that could have been 2D anyways, I feel like you're kind of just making it look spiffier for no reason, and I always get a bit disappointed by that.
When you come across updrafts, you're going to want to give them a try.
Like, maybe Octopath Traveler isn't a perfect example. Maybe it does take great advantage of the 3D, but to my understanding, it's just like, no, this is a game they could have made in 2D without any real changes to the design. Link, you're straight up falling. Oh, whoa. He went back up, yo. Does a software exist where it takes your pixel art and draws them in different positions? Software exists that like takes 3D animations and transforms it into a decent pixel art. There probably is some software for it, but you know, everybody, you know me, I love Dune. I think that just because you have the technology to make it easier for yourself, that doesn't mean you need to use it. Like, I think AI is really interesting, and I think there's a lot of interesting sort of ramifications and implementations that AI technology can have on game development going forwards. But that's not an excuse for not knowing how to do traditional animation. That's not an excuse for not knowing how to do programming.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Breath of the Wild, gang. What do you think? What do you think, gang? What do you think, gang? Stable diffusion with control net, probably. I know stable diffusion, I don't know control net. How disappointing does the new Street Fighter look? I'm not a big Street Fighter guy, so I can't really comment on that. I saw a bunch of people on Twitter got really horny for Cammy, so I assumed that it had gone over pretty well by people. I don't know. It's a posting to control stable diffusion. Alright. That's cool, that's
When all
cool.
the poofs and dancing foodstuffs were implemented,
And that is actually something I'm really interested in when they get AI that can do pixel art. When they get that, then I'm like,
we had come up with
okay, I'll be intrigued by that. Because there's a lot of like just adding flowers and trees and shit, which is like takes an unnecessary amount of time that you can sort of just automate, and then you just tweak the edges of it a bit.
the reconciliation of the conflict between playability and reality. It's the result of our quest for art that makes it easy to lie to match this game known as Breath of the Wild.
Whoa.
This is actually a Christian stream, so you're not allowed to lie. I don't like the new Street Fighter designs, I just don't get it, and most seem to be dressed like MMA fighters. Right. Yeah, I was gonna say AI could help speed up the process, but personally only use the AI from art I have hand drawn. Yeah, okay. Like,
The final art style appears different.
I'm super pro AI art. I think people who are like down on this, like, you know, when they made the light bulb, a lot of candle makers got angry. But the democratization of these quote unquote skills, I think it's wonderful. I think that the talented people are going to be able to find better ways to utilize AI and integrate it into their arsenal of ways to make games and make art. And people who just like don't want to do it, well, more power to you. But if you're willing to use a tablet, I don't see why you wouldn't be willing to use an AI.
The soul. We use the phrase "gutto-kuru" to capture that feeling.
King of Fighters did much better job maintaining while updating. Chat is on a fighting game conversation, which I'm not privy to because I don't know these games. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Gutto Kuru.
You can't create gutto-kuru art or a world just with art that makes it easy to lie. To create an appealing, never-before-seen world filled with new surprises, you need to break conventions. You need to be creatively reckless.
そして我々ゲーム開発者はそういうある種暴力的な仕事が本当に大好きではないでしょうか。
So perhaps it's safe to say, in some ways, we game creators really enjoy violent work.
たくさんの所属アーティストたちはいかにしてこの
In what way did our artists
グッとくるを絵に上乗せしていくか日々頭を悩ませそれぞれの個性を遺憾なく発揮して開発を行ってきました。
add that gutto-kuru feeling to their art? They rack their brains each and every day throughout development to fully manifest their individuality.
アーティストの皆さんには共感していただけると思いますが、ここが
Is it hard to find copies of Kingsfield or Armored Core in Iceland?
I think all the artists here today will empathize with me when I say
No, I have access to the same website everyone else does, and my totally not emulated copies of those games.
アートディレクターは機能やガイドライン
You know, of course I'm against emulation in all of its forms. I'd never emulate a game, and I'd never stream emulated games either. I can't find a reasonable copy. I don't know. I'm not really big on hardware from the era. Like, I'd love to own these games, but if I can't get a copy for like $5, I wouldn't even bother.
the authority to let loose the somewhat reckless triforce of the power.
I'm not sure AI art is AI art. It's more art generation, as no one is doing art unless like Dino does and uses his own work. Yeah, like, you know, whatever terminology people want to use.
I think it's possible.
I don't think that
I'm the man who's had his soul stirred.
like if you can look at a mountain and say a mountain is art, then AI art is art. But if you think art is something only people do, then like, yeah, it's not art.
何度も何度も
Or maybe it is hard because people make AI. I feel like people people can argue around whether or not it is or it isn't, but it is what it is.
And have their souls stirred again and again, just as I did.
それでは最後に行ってみる勇気のトライフォース藤林に総括をしてもらいます。
All right, let me turn it back over to the holder of the Triforce of the Courage to say, Mr. Fujibayashi, to wrap things up.
Oh yeah. Why didn't Miyamoto show up? I know for a fact he single-handedly made this game. That is actually something I really feel is a loss for Nintendo, is that I don't think Miyamoto really... I don't think he's a leg worker. He doesn't feel like a guy who's active on the day-to-day anymore, which is sad. Because he used to be their main guy, you know. Hello, Mikuru. You're kind of coming in late because we're just 3 minutes away from ending this. But welcome anyways. We'll try to make your stay here, though short, a pleasant one.
We had the Triforce of Courage, the courage to be able to say whatever needs to be said to bring about a new way to play a game.
Yes.
The Triforce of Wisdom, the wisdom to bring
I hate the Triforce stuff, man. I
hate
it.
I
hate it.
Power to construct a world of Zelda from all of the above.
私たちスタッフと共にそれぞれブレスオブザワイルドを完成させるまでの道のりで変えたこと、変えなかった。
Hey, good news. The cat is sleeping in the sock shelf again.
当たり前を見直すとは変えることだけではなく変えないことでもあったことが分かっていただけたかと思います。
As you've seen in our talk today, along our path to bring this game to completion, the three of us, as well as the development team, made some significant changes to some elements, while leaving others as they are. I hope you were able to see that breaking conventions means to change, but it can also mean to not change, to keep things as they are.
Oh.
ゼルダは2016年で誕生してからファンの皆様に支えられ、おかげさまで30年となりました。
In 2016, Zelda celebrated its 30th
New friends
anniversary
can't
with
Triforce?
support of all
What?
fans.
Is this a shot at me? Why?
にわたる開発の積み重ねの末に全く新しいゲームでありながら原点の面白さを見つめ直したタイトルとなります。
Triforce is code word for
Breath of the
lawyers.
Wild is a culmination
Chat
of
is
the
on
strong
another
history of
chat is on
development.
another deep dive here
It is
that
a
I
new
just
game, but at the same time,
too deep for
we
me.
examine
5
the
deep,
fun
5
that
me.
lies at the essence of the franchise.
もし今日皆さんが我々のお話しした内容に興味を持っていただけたら、ぜひブレスオブザワイルドを遊んでみてください。きっといろいろと面白い発見があると思います。
What is going on? What's going on is this movie night's almost over. Everybody's dropping in now at like 20 minutes. Like we've been going for 2 hours and now we're wrapping things up. People
If you
start
found
dropping
our
in. This is
discussion to be
ridiculous.
interesting, please give Breath of the Wild a try. I think you'll be able to
Is
make
this
new and
Tears of the
interesting
Kingdom?
discoveries,
No, it's Breath of the Wild.
and
Breath of the
nothing
Wild.
would make us happier.
We're just watching
Some
the
of these
GDC
new
talk.
discoveries provide you with a clue or inspiration for your future game development. Thank you very much for your attending our panel today.
Thank you very much. Do I know anybody? Anuma is there. That's nice. It's always nice to see him. I don't see Miyamoto. This is an outrage. There's really nothing quite as refreshing in this industry as a credit list that has produced by Shigeru Miyamoto on it, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, that was movie night. Everybody have a good time? We've been here for about 2 hours. Hope everybody enjoyed themselves. I'm gonna go have dinner. I'm gonna probably give this cat some food too. Try to get it out of my sock shelf so that my socks don't all get hairy. Or maybe I won't. Because the cat is at peace. And that gives me free time. I loved Breath of the Wild. I might rewatch this from the beginning later. Oh yeah. These things are designed to be like... If you're here live, that's cool, but these are designed to be VODs. People should watch these much later on, where they can like skip over my inane rants about Nintendo's lawyers and stuff like that. Aesir, will you be doing more GDC streams? I like this. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'd love to do, maybe we do Sunday movie night every now and then, because there's like 2 Fallout streams, 2 Fallout ones I like. There's this one. Oh, there's actually 3. I like this one by Timothy Kane. There's the Josh Sawyer one, and then there's the where is it? I can't find it. It's the one it's the Fallout 4 one where they're talking about modular asset kits. There's also, I think, the narrative Legos thing was here. Ken Levine. Ken Levine? No, it's not here. Anyways, like, yeah, we'll probably be doing more of these, especially when I'm not fetching footage, so I don't need to stream games. But yeah, it's fun being here, everybody. Fun being here. Goodbye. Discord links in the description if you want to continue. Wait a minute, you don't consider any Bethesda Fallout games to be canon? It's an outrage. Fallout 4 is the best game ever made. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming. If you want to continue the talk, Discord link in the description. See ya. We'll maybe do this again next week.